confession to make. I told you how excited I was anticipating my ride on a camel. The truth is, it was only fun for a while. After an hour, my legs were stiff and my bottom was sore, and I would have given anything to be riding in a jeep or on one of those Arabian horses I saw the other day. Of course, that wasn't possible, so I stayed right where I was on the back of that camel and hoped that this first day would be a short one. Later that morning to give the camels a rest and stay out of the hottest part of the day. In late afternoon, we started on our way again. By now, I was getting used to the sway of the camel. We seemed to be going faster, and I started enjoying the ride. Imagining that I was a desert prince surveying my kingdom. I traded spices and goods from India and was very rich. I was friends with sultans and kings, diplomats and merchants. I knew all the people in every village that we went to, and they were always happy to see me coming. Late that afternoon, the weather seemed to change. In the distance, I thought I saw a bank of fog forming. Wait a minute. That can't be fog. We're in the desert. Was it a sandstorm? I realized the wind was coming up. just in time. We unloaded the animals and made it inside just as the storm hit. Being in a sandstorm is the scariest experience I've ever had. When it was over, everything was deathly quiet. Not even the birds were singing. Outside, all traces of our tracks had been blown smooth, and the sand was piled high against the buildings. I thought how lucky we were to have made it to shelter. After dinner, we laid out our sleeping mats on the floor and drank tea while we listened to stories of the men who'd made their living traveling from village to village across the desert. They were almost to the end of the letter now. The next few days I'll be on assignment and won't be able to write, so don't worry. If you don't hear from me, I've enclosed all the photos I took at the bazaar. I think you'll find them interesting. I'll be in touch again as soon as I can. Love, Robert. That was the end of the letter. Back in Colorado, the fire had burned low and the tea mugs were empty. I guess we should put everything back in the envelope and head for bed, says Margaret with a sigh. I love reading Robert's letter, replies Joe. I just wish he could tell us his stories in person. Soon enough, Joe, soon enough. We pick him up at the airport tomorrow, and then we'll hear everything firsthand. Outside, a gust of wind slams the front gate shut. I thought I'd latched that gate when I came in for dinner, says Joe. I'd better make sure it's tight. I don't want to listen to it banging all night. He goes to get his coat from the closet, but before he can get to the door, there's a quick knock, followed by a young man's voice. Mom? Dad, are you still up? Then Robert steps into the room. What? Margaret and Joe just look at each other. I was able to get on a standby flight out of London, so I thought I'd surprise you, says Robert. Well, I'll be, says Joe. Get over here. I want to see if you've got any of that Sahara Desert sand still in your pockets. And he gives Robert a big hug. Margaret does not give a hoot about the sand from the Sahara Desert. You're home, she says. My little boy's home. And then she hugs him until he feels like he's being squeezed by a python. But of course he isn't. It's only his mother. And he is very happy to be home. It's been a long trip, says Robert. I think I need to turn in. It is so good to be home. I can't wait to sleep in my own bed. Good night, son, says Joe. Sweet dreams. Good night, honey, says Margaret. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Upstairs, Robert turns back the covers and crawls into bed. In no time at all, he's asleep. In his dreams, he feels the sway of the camel and he smells the delicious aroma of roasted lamb and lentils and sees the bright colors of the tents in the bazaar. He looks out over the desert and thinks, what a beautiful place. all that white shimmering sand. And then in the way that dreams have, snowflakes start to fall from the sky. It turns cold, and he reaches up and wipes away the snowflakes that melted on his face. Wow, he thinks, it's snowing in the desert. In his dream, he hears an unusual sound and he turns around and he finds himself in a forest of spruce and pine. Coming towards him is his friend Gary in a sleigh pulled by a set of dappled gray horses. The sound he heard is the bells on the horses' harnesses. He's confused for a moment, and then he remembers, that's right, I'm home. I'm not in the desert anymore. I'm home. It's winter, and there's lots of snow outside. I can call Gary tomorrow, and we can get all our friends together and go for a sleigh ride. What a great idea. He is so glad to be home. In his dream, Robert climbs up into Gary's sleigh, and they drive into the woods. They catch up on everything they've missed in each other's lives while Robert was away, and listen to the joyful sound of the bells as the horses trot over the clean, white snow.